You are listening to Ideas and Leaders podcast. I'm Elena Paweta, Executive Communication Coach and TEDx organizer. With each episode, I'll share with you communication tips and ideas from top business leaders to help you excel in your career. Welcome to the next episode of Ideas and Leaders podcast. Today I have a great guest. It is Jose Berlanga. He's a successful entrepreneur. He's a real estate investor, book author, speaker, and I would really like to speak about successful entrepreneurship strategies with him today. Hi, Jose. It's great to have you on Ideas and Leaders.
Hi there. It's great to be here. Thank you so much for your invitation.
So, Jose, you're so inspiring. You've been building and developing your businesses for so many years, and you are really a model of a successful entrepreneurs, I must say. So, can you share a little bit of your journey and your story? How did you get to be where you are right now?
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. And actually, before I answer, I'm going to comment on something that you mentioned of how entrepreneurs achieve success. And what an irony, but I do feel that many entrepreneurs, we are very own worst enemy and judge of character and tough audience at the same time, because we always tend to think that we are not doing as well as we want to, or as well as we intended to. Although the perception from the outside for many people may be that I'm a very successful entrepreneur. And perhaps, yes, the common denominator of success is all there. But I always feel like I haven't done enough. I always feel like I haven't achieved many of the things that I set myself to doing. And perhaps the outcome of some of the attempts to build businesses has not turned out exactly the way that I anticipated. I always end up perhaps with most of the work, most of the responsibilities. Over the years, I've always attempted to build businesses that are self-sufficient, that require less of my participation, that just succeed without my full-time effort and attention. And although I have been successful and turned some of these businesses into a success, it has taken a toll on my time, on my life, on the quality of life, on the level of sacrifice in the way that you approach these businesses. So it's interesting to know the perspectives, the different perspectives of the meaning of success. Sometimes financial success might be there, but in your mind, maybe you didn't achieve other things that you intended to, goals that you intended to reach. So it's all in the eye of the beholder. But yes, just to get back to the original question, I've been an entrepreneur my whole life for one reason or another. I was a very curious person from a very young age. I think I've been a problem solver before I even understood the concept of problems at a very young age. So I was always creating ideas, coming up with concepts, thinking of things to sell, how to sell them, how to promote them, how to improve certain things, the basic concept of an entrepreneur and perhaps of entrepreneurship in general is understanding a problem that humanity faces, or a discomfort, or something that may be inconvenient to all of us, and then coming up with a solution and a better way of doing something. Fundamentally, that's the root, that's the basic function of an entrepreneur, is to come up with ideas and new ways of doing things. And I believe that that's been my path, my pattern from the very beginning, from my initial phases of my career. I've never worked for a company. From the time I was in college, I started a business, and One contact and one concept led to another and to another. I've mentioned before that one of my blessings is how much I love and understand the concept of entrepreneurship and building businesses, creating and starting businesses. But at the same time, is a curse because I don't have one particular niche market that I'm completely passionate about. So I'm involved in so many different things in so many different industries at times that I overwhelm myself. That's another perhaps characteristic of entrepreneurships. Entrepreneurs that our brains go faster than the ability to execute some of these models. Predominantly, I started in the oil and gas, petrochemical machinery for the oil and gas exporting of numerous products. I live in Texas, in the United States, in Houston, and my proximity to Mexico and Latin America was a very good beginning ground for the exporting business, especially in the oil and gas. I live in the city that we call the capital, the energy capital of the world. So I was exposed to that particular industry in the early phases of my career. But eventually I started dabbling in other things, which took me to the real estate residential construction business, where I ended up spending a good solid 2+ decades of my career developing land, building homes, building single family residential concepts, so on and so forth. So that's the basic summary.
Wow, thank you for sharing your story, and also thank you for being so open about the your way of thinking, that it is not enough or not what you wanted to achieve, because I think that all entrepreneurs face those thoughts that, oh, I could do better, and oh, someone did better than me. And we are always looking up to people who are more successful or in business for longer period of time, and we start comparing ourselves. And I think that it is very inspiring to share that, yes, this feeling is always there somewhere, and we have to just deal with this. We have to live with this. So,
It's almost horrible because it never stops. You see people that are successful, but their brain never slows down, never takes a break. You always feel like you should be doing more, you should be doing better. There are no limits in business and in success and entrepreneurship. There are always people that are happier. There are always people that are wealthier. There are always people that are smarter, that have built better operations, smoother operations, and you're always and by the way, as you do better, you start surrounding yourself with people that are also as successful or more than you are. So yes, you're so right. You start always with that comparison of whether I could have, should have done this better or differently. Where did I fail? So most people see you as a success and they see you as an accomplished person, but you somehow don't see yourself at that level ever. So it's difficult.
yeah, so thank you so much for sharing this, because sometimes even I can relate to this, and I'm sure that many of our listeners do as well. Sometimes when someone approaches me and says something like, "Oh, you are a role model," or "I love that you're doing this and that," or "Thank you for," and I have this feeling that this is not enough, that I could do better. So perception of other people is definitely different from what we perceive about ourselves. And also you
Yes.
mentioned that as an entrepreneur, you're doing many different things, and you have many different projects in mind, many plans. What do you think about this? That many business gurus, they say that we need to choose one niche and or one product, and we need to laser focus on it and just do this 24/7, work on this one idea. So where is the border in between focusing on one idea and going all in, and realizing and doing many different projects?
Oh, absolutely. I'm a big proponent of focus, of one concept, one idea, and the right execution. Most importantly, and I think a lot of us know this, we just don't really rationalize it properly, that ideas are easier to come than to actually execute them. The execution is
Unfortunately.
the hardest part in a business. Is extremely difficult to make things happen and to turn things into a successful, profitable operation. So in the early stages of entrepreneurship and in the early stages of someone's career, I absolutely feel that you need to focus in one thing only, one concept, one idea, one business, the direction, the plan, the strategy. There are so many things to put together and implement. It's all focusing on one idea and one business. It's already overwhelming to do it right. So doing more than one is unbearable. I've attempted it, by the way, and I failed. Some of my failures in business is because I spread myself thin, trying to be too many places at the same time, trying to be all things to all people, and I messed it all up. So in the early stage, until you build a structure, an infrastructure that operates, where you have a great team with specific responsibilities, and once your company takes off and starts doing well, and even then, it requires your time and your attention, but not until your company is mature and well operated can you start thinking about expanding into other models and other ideas. Because yes, you see successful entrepreneurs that have multiple businesses and multiple concepts. They buy and sell businesses in different industries. And that's possible, just not at first, not in the early phases. You have to first get to execute one successfully. And when it's stable, what I call it, once you stabilize a business, then you can begin to think about something else, but not before.
Yeah, it is so important that many people speak about focusing on one idea. And I think it is hard sometimes for entrepreneurs because those are people full of ideas and full of plans. So what is your recommendation for people who are listening to us, who have different ideas and maybe don't know which idea to choose? So how to choose this right idea or right industry or right product to work on?
Yes. Great question. Because this is a process that encompasses several things. Coming up with an idea, first of all, it needs to make sense. There has to be a need. You have to research that your idea is not just some stubborn, creative way of coming up with something when there is no actual need for your service or your product. So you have to research a little bit of what the market is telling you, number one. And once you do that, then you need to have a plan. You need to have a strategy of how you're going to go about it. Building a business has a sequence of events, but one more important one is that I would say that you shouldn't just jump into a concept or an idea for the sake of making money. Every time I've chased a business for the money, I end up with a lot of work and very little success. But every time I jump into a business idea because of the mission, because of the concept, because I think it will make a difference somehow, I end up making money. So money should be more of a consequence of your actions and your activities than the objective itself. I think money is secondary. And when you get into a concept or a business in a desperate need of making money, your chances of success reduce dramatically. Next, you need to find something that you're relatively not only passionate about, because nowadays we all talk about finding our passion and what we want out of life, but also you have to be good at it. You cannot attempt to do something in whatever realm of activities that you're not particularly somewhat a good candidate for the job. So evaluate your own abilities, your own strengths. Don't get into something that, oh, it looks like or it sounds like a great business opportunity, but I have no idea what that business is about. And I may not even be good at it in the first place. So be good at it. Otherwise, again, chances are not going to be very good. And then partner with people that already have the experience. If by the way, I prefer and I recommend people to go on their own and start a business venture on something where they have already had some exposure, some experience. If you work in a certain industry, eventually you can go on your own because you've learned the business, because you've worked for somebody else, because you've gotten enough tools to go and duplicate that activity on your own. But if you've never been in the industry, it makes statistically, it makes it much more difficult for you to succeed. So try to learn it before you jump in and assume that it's going to work.
Yeah, so there are many elements. We need to be passionate about it, but also good at it. We need to also partner with the right people who have experience in this area.
Right.
I think that it is crucial to be good at something, but also we need to realize that, and this is something that entrepreneurs very often struggle with, is that we need to not only do the thing that we like doing, like, for example, we like, I don't know, cooking pizza, for example, but we end up doing accounting, doing planning, hiring people, working with people. So we are doing many other things connected with this.
Too many, unfortunately. Yes, that is the trick, the number one aspect of entrepreneurship, that we have to be responsible for so many activities. And sometimes we get into a business because we like some activity, like you say, you like cooking, or you like fashion, or you like design. But before you know it, you own a business, and the last thing you're doing is cooking or designing or doing the activities for which you got in the business in the first place. Before you know it, you're administrating. You're an administrator, you're a manager, you're dealing with people, with legalities, with paperwork, with all kinds of work that you don't enjoy and you don't like. And being in the corporate business, people that come from the corporate world don't understand that when you go into entrepreneurship, you don't have an infrastructure. You don't have people helping you. You don't have, in the corporate world, you can focus on one subject and the others are already taken care of. There's accounting, there's finance, there's production, there's distribution, there's sales, there's marketing. So you can focus, let's say, in human resources, if that's what you do, or whatever part of the business you're in, you can just do that and be successful. In entrepreneurship, you have to have your eyes in all of them. Pay attention to all of them. Not only focus and pay attention on what you're doing, but what everybody else is doing. All of a sudden, you're responsible for everybody's achievements and everybody's efficiency. And it becomes a juggling act that not many people have the talent to have their eyes and ears everywhere. So it's very different. It's very different when you start and build a business.
Yes, absolutely. So what would be your recommendations, your top recommendations to people who are listening to us, who are planning to develop their businesses or already developing their businesses? So how to manage all this? Do you have any strategy for success?
There is a world of things that need to come together and align themselves, a lot of stars that need to align themselves in the success of a business. But being understanding that your entire life needs to be devoted to it. There are no schedules. There are no, I have to go because I have something else more important. All of a sudden, this has to be your number one priority. You have to be stubborn. You have to take this new business as your number one, number two, number three priority, and pivot, be able to adjust, be open-minded, be able to understand that you don't run the business in the early stages. The business kind of runs you. It tells you where it's going. So as you listen to your staff, as you listen to the market, as you listen to your sales results, you adjust. You start with a very open mind that where you think the business is going may not necessarily be where you're going to end up. So making those adjustments regularly, and again, having a personality that can fix problems very quickly. There are people that spend 1 hour on a 5 minute problem. In entrepreneurship, you cannot afford to do that. You have to be very quick on your feet, make quick solutions, quick decisions. Don't overthink things. Move on to the next one and move forward every day. Make little steps. Be extremely organized. That's my number one recommendation. If you are not organized, even you can be scatterbrained because I am. I'm ADD, and I think I attribute a lot of that to some level of success because my brain is able to be in multiple things simultaneously. I can do that, but I cannot do them all at the same time. Even if my brain is able to do that, I have to have a list of priorities and attack them in the order in which I consider them to help my business become more successful.
Yeah, thank you so much for those tips. So tell us also about your book. I know that you wrote a book for entrepreneurs. What is it about and where can we find it?
Yes, it's on Amazon, the business of home building. This, although the title refers to home building, the home building business, it's really geared towards anyone starting a business, building a business for startups, because it shows you, it tells you, it narrates the details, the step-by-step events that lead you to start and build a business. This particular story is about how to build a construction company, but the steps are very similar when you look closely. Starting and building and developing a business has a lot of similarities from one industry to another. The sequence of events are relatively simple. You know, you change the standards and the requirements and so on and so forth. But this book allows you to think of many subjects that perhaps a lot of entrepreneurs jump into their early stages of a business without realizing that there was much more to it. There were other things that they neglected to consider. And this book at the very least would allow you to consider what those things are. What are the things that I may not be thinking about? From a vision to having a business plan, to understanding the pros, the cons, the amount of capital I will need it, what for, why, where am I now, where do I need to get, what are the right components, the right people that will help me get there, how do I find those people, where do I find them, so on, how do I select them. So it has very important instruments in the process of starting and building any kind of business. So this is a first book. Hopefully there will be more to come as I mentioned, I'm finishing the second book about investing in land and developing land and also very real estate related topics. But I hope to expand into other entrepreneurship topics.
Wonderful. Thank you for doing this and for giving back to entrepreneurs and speaking on podcasts, writing books. So the business of home building, we'll put the link to your book in the show notes. And also, if our listeners want to reach out to find you, where can they contact you?
My social media accounts, but the easiest way, joseberlanga.com. I'm an easy person to find. Been in business, although I've done very little social media. Still come from that era of attempting to avoid everything that has to do with the public eye. But this is the new era. This is a new era where you have to put yourself out there and do these type of social events. But yeah, my social accounts, joseberlanga.com, and my LinkedIn, and a few other websites that are easy to reach.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jose, for being on Ideas and Leaders. Thank you for inspiring our listeners. I really loved the conversation, and I'm sure that our listeners really appreciated all your tips. Good luck with your businesses, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the invitation. It's great to be here.
Thank you for listening to Ideas and Leaders podcast. Did you enjoy this episode? Let me know that you listened by tagging me in your LinkedIn profile and using a hashtag Ideas and Leaders. See you in the next episode.